آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم ينفعنا بما علمتنا وعلمنا ينفعنا وزن علما يا كريم رب العالمين. اللهم نسألك علما نافعا ورزقا واسعا وشفاء لكل داء آمين رب العالمين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah bless all of you. Alhamdulillah, inshallah, you guys are doing well, keeping warm. Inshallah, preparing for upcoming Ramadan in about a month and a half or so. Inshallah, Allah bless you. We see the Ramadan, inshallah ta'ala. We're on our fifth session on the series of Salahuddin. So I'm going to go over a little bit, inshallah ta'ala, what we're going to cover today, and then we'll go over a review. I think review is always helpful. There's too many names, too many dates, and so it's good to always do that. So today, inshallah ta'ala, we're going to go over the siege of Alexandria. We kind of left off there from last week. We're talking about Shirkuh, Nur ad-Din's general, his third campaign to Egypt when he goes in. The end of Shawar. You heard a lot about this guy Shawar last week. Interesting character. And I don't know who trusts him, but at all. And then Salahuddin becomes the advisor or vizier of the wazir of Egypt. And then we're going to talk about the siege of Dimyat or Demita, and then the death of Nur ad-Din Zinki, which probably won't get to that. And so these last 3 points we probably won't get to. I added some other things, so inshallah we'll try to get as far as we can. And going back to your point, there is a person named Al-Hakim who was the first Khalifa of the Fatimid Empire. I think you brought that up last week, I believe. Something like this. Yeah. He's so early that I mean, they weren't even in Egypt. They're in Tunis at that time. So that's when I checked on that over the weekend. All right. So this is review like always, right? The list of the Crusades. So right now we're around 1164 or something like that. That's where we're kind of picking up at. So we're like over here a bit, if you will. We talked about the Second Crusades. It was a disaster for the Crusaders. King Louis VII, Conrad II from France and Germany both had to leave. Didn't really accomplish much things. But they will be coming back for the third. At least Conrad II won't be, but his nephew, Frederick Barbarossa, will be coming with some other people, if you will. But we'll get to that later on. So this is a reference. Salahuddin was born in 1137. So just kind of put it here. He was 11 years old or 10 years old when the Second Crusade happened. 1144 is when Imad ad-Din Zenki takes over Edessa, the fourth one of the principalities of the Crusaders. And 1187, which we're all trying to lead up to, is when Salahuddin will conquer Jerusalem. And that's over here. So we're about 20 years out or so from that happening. Okay. Just want to go over a little bit about where is just a little note about this, that we're looking here about this happened during the First Crusade, which we passed maybe 3 classes ago. But to understand that these 4 principalities that the Crusaders took, and these are all Muslims all around here, just as a reference, one thing you could always ask is that how does this happen when all these Muslims are here? How does Gaza happen when all the Muslims are around there, right? And so when these Zenkin Empire comes and Salahuddin, it's this revival of that, we have to protect our lands and get out of our comfort zone. And so that's kind of like what we're going through as a Ummah right now. You know what I mean? A lot of our things that we're very comfortable with, whether you're in here in America or the UAE or Saudi Arabia or, different places, is that, these things matter and that you need to wake up as a Ummah or your land will be gone sooner or later if you don't change your ways. And so it's a lot about priority, a lot about understanding our visions and so forth. And that's what we're kind of leading up to. That's what this whole class is about, is trying to revive that, if you will. Little review from last week. So we talked about the Fatimid Empire, about their Ismaili Fatimids, right? We talked about in 1163, Shalwar was overthrown as the Wazir of Egypt. We talked about the Wazir as the main person, not really the Khalifa, and that he had to get help from Nur ad-Din. So even Nur ad-Din's a Sunni, he's a Fatimid, right? He wants his position. People will do anything for their position, okay? And so Nur ad-Din says, yeah, I can come. I'll send Shirkuh, come to my general to come and help you. That happens in 1164. Salahuddin accompanies his uncle Shirkuh. The Crusader army comes with Amalric, who was the king of Jerusalem at that time. and they end up, Shirkuh ends up defeating the current wazir at that time, Dirgham, and putting Shalwar into position. We heard that Shalwar, we all know that he broke his promise. So I'm not going to give you 1/3 of the wealth of Egypt. Ha ha ha! I just used you to get to my position. And then he comes and he persecutes Shirkuh and tells Amalric, the Crusader army coming, to let's get Shirkuh out of our country, right? And they basically come and they lay siege to him. Okay, and then Shirkuh has to leave and finally make some agreements to leave with Amalric. Okay, Shalwar ends up being the victor pretty much at that time. Shirkuh comes back in 1167 on a second campaign. Okay, Shalwar seeks help from the Crusaders. Shirkuh's back. He's pretty mad that, I pretty much lied to him last year and I didn't give him his wealth and so forth. So Amalric, can you help me? I'll give you so much money, etc., etc., etc. There's a battle of Babain where the Crusaders and the Fatimids come and they meet Shirkuh's army. Shirkuh's army defeats them very well. Fatimids and the Crusader army goes back to Cairo. Shirkuh goes all the way up to Alexandria, which is a far distance. That's about a 2.5-hour drive from Cairo. I think it was a 2-hour train ride when I took it back in those days. And so he goes all the way up, takes Alexandria, while these guys, Fatimids and the Crusades, are buddy-buddy, going to Cairo and kind of licking their wounds and trying to recuperate from their loss. And that's when they go to Alexandria and lay siege to Shirkuh in Alexandria. Okay, that's where we left off from last week. So just a little note there. Why did he go to Alexandria for? Shirkuh's a smart guy. Port city, but also was still Sunni, even though the Fatimid Empire. So he has a lot of support if he would go there. He has allies there. It was a port city, but they didn't have any boats that he could use. That would have been great. He would have been able to leave the town. So just showing up here, this is the Zangid Empire here, which is Edessa, Aleppo, Damascus, okay? And then also Mosul, which is in Iraq. And then this is what we're talking about, the Fatimid Empire, Egypt over here. You could see that Amalric, he's in Jerusalem. He doesn't want Nur ad-Din to take over this. The Zangids take over this, because what will happen to Jerusalem? It'll be sandwiched between them and the Zangids here and the Zangids there. And that will sandwich Jerusalem, and then they'll lose. They'll take over Jerusalem pretty easy. So that's the reason why the Amalric wants to make sure that Nur ad-Din and the Zangids and Shirkuh doesn't take Egypt at all, because that'll be game over for him. Okay, and also the Fatimids want to stay in power, so that's why the Crusaders on the Fatimids are buddy. That's why there's so much. That's why you see some of these countries now, like you saw Bashar al-Assad in Syria. Even though he's Muslim, but he's buddy with Putin, with the Russians, because he's keeping him in power, right? And so same kind of game that's always been played probably for about 1 million years now. Everyone has been doing this. It's just different people's names change, and they don't, that's a lot to say about that. But anywho, so that's the reason why this area is so important. That if the Zangids get this, Nur ad-Din gets it, Shirkuh, Salahuddin, then goodbye to Jerusalem. Okay, so that's kind of what's important. Here's Alexandria. This is where the siege is laid here. Now this is where Jerusalem is at. So Amalric is coming with his army through here. They go down to Babain, get beat up, go to Cairo, and then they go all the way back here with Shalwar's army to lay siege to Shirkuh here in Alexandria. That's kind of like a visual of what we're kind of looking at here. It's called Alexandria from Alexander the Great, when the Macedonians and the Greek Empire was here many years ago. Just a little note, I'm going to say this multiple times now as I keep on going over this presentation. If you have a chance to go to Egypt, have you ever been to Egypt here before? Yeah, okay, good. Yeah, it's like I said, I lived 70 years there, and I'm realizing how much more I should have looked around. We went to Alexandria multiple times. There's a lot of Roman artifacts there. It's amazing. A lot of Greek artifacts, Muslim artifacts. It's amazing to see the history there. It's just you have to kind of go there. SubhanAllah. Islamic history, just Egyptian history, even though it's around, but nonetheless, it's just amazing just to go there, see what's there. Right. So the siege of Alexandria. So Shalwar and the Crusaders come. They laid siege for about a very long time. I forgot exactly how long it was. Both sides are losing their supply lines, right? So they can't get much food or anything else. Shirkuh is an amazing guy. You know, if you remember, he has one eye. This guy's about war. You know, this is like his thing in life, you know? Some people are like that. And so he gets a cavalry at nighttime, opens the door of the city, goes out and runs right through the Crusades, the Crusader army, comes on the other side and starts attacking them from the back, and then taking over other positions and stopping the supply lines to the Crusaders, right? That causes the Crusaders, Amalric, to say, like, we got to get the heck out of here. They're attacking us from the front and the back, and our supply lines are going down. So they make an agreement once again, where they said, you know what, we will lift the siege. The Zankids, or Shirkuh and his army, has to go back to Damascus, okay? And the Crusaders have to go back to Jerusalem. Okay? And Shalwar won't punish anyone from Alexandria for siding with Shirkuh. Because when Shirkuh came to Alexandria, everyone's opened their arms and say, yes, thank you, come inside. We're not even going to fight you. Come in the city. So Shalwar didn't like that, okay? But he said, you know what, I'm not going to punish the people. You guys leave, I'm just going to leave them alone, okay? Salahuddin and Amalric meet for the first time. So Amalric, even though Salahuddin, so what happened is that when, we'll go back to this little picture here, when Shirkuh left and broke through the army, the lines of the Crusaders, and came on this side, he left Salahuddin Alexandria in the fort and say, hold down the city. Now, this is his kind of first, you know, term as having some power here. I got to like hold down the army here. I got to, you know, you have to kind of, you know, you have to swim, right? You're in the ocean, you have to swim. And so that was his first like leadership position. Amalric and the Crusaders are here, and like I said, they make the agreement that we're both going to leave. Muslims or the Zankids are going to go back to Damascus. Amalric and the Crusaders are going to go back to Jerusalem. Amalric meets with Salahuddin and said, this is the agreement, sign, sign, sign. And that's the first time he met with them, and he got to know him a little bit. And he actually was very impressed with him. And he even said, you know what, I'll give you my boats here and to come over to Alexandria and take the wounded Muslim soldiers back to Damascus, right? It's much faster by ocean. Like obviously, by boats travel faster than walking, right? And so that was a kind of a nice gesture. Amalric is not a nice guy. I'm not trying to make him look good, okay? But anyhow, it was something that he did that for Salahuddin. There it goes, it says it right there. Shalwar enters the city, and guess what he does? This guy pretty much breaks every promise that he's probably ever made, okay? And he goes in the city and starts arresting anyone that's a side that was shown to us, side with Shirkuh and Salahuddin, right? That you guys are traitors and treason. They start arresting them, put them in jail. So he breaks his promise right here of leaving them alone. Okay, so this guy has more targets on his back now than he already, but you know, not a good guy. Okay, go ahead.
Where do the Knights Templar place in?
They're in the army of the Crusader army. So the Crusader army is made of different fractions. So this is called a group called the Templars or the Knights. It's called the Hospitallers, right? Also, there's another like rank within the Crusader army, and yes, these are the guys a little bit have a different agenda. Crusaders are bad in general, put it that way. There's some guys are at least somewhat honest, you know, to extent, right? But they're a little bit more evil and deviant, and even the other Crusaders didn't like them. And you're going to see that probably in our next class when Baldwin, the fourth, the one that has leprosy, he can't handle Renaud, which is one of the kind of the main Templar generals who's just killing Muslims left and right. Muslims are going for Hajj, and he kills them on their path for Hajj. He doesn't really care at all, you know, which is not what, and Baldwin's like, that's not what we do. You know, we don't like you guys, but we won't do something like that. But those guys just go and just, you know, do really bad things. So we talked a little bit about them in what I think our first class kind of talked about a little bit, but we could go back, inshallah. So what's the aftermath of this? Aftermath of this, Shalwar made an agreement with the Crusaders that the Crusaders will stay in Egypt, or a portion of them will stay in Cairo and guard the gates of Cairo from, here it is right here, the gates of Cairo in case Shirkuh comes back. Okay. Because Shawar is already losing power. He knows that he can't defend Shirkuh. He needs the Crusaders to come. So, and he gives them 100,000 dinars, which are gold coins. Something that's a lot of money. Egypt had a lot of money, so they didn't really, that wasn't really an issue to them. To the Crusaders, if they would just leave and don't take over the town, right? But they stay there, and also a representative will stay in the country and be part of their government, right? Which is like blasphemy, right? It's like the PLO saying like Israeli will come and be a part of our government. Maybe they probably did say that before. I don't know. Who knows? But that'll be like, wouldn't make any sense. Like, what are you doing? Also, Shawar obviously doesn't really care about Muslims or Islam. He's really trying to hold his position, which, like I said, we could look right now to the present day, and you guys could probably tell me about 10 names of people who are doing the same thing right now in all different countries, right? And that's why this class is very important. We're seeing a lot here. It's just good to make those references. Okay. So the Crusaders do have a presence inside of Egypt. Third campaign. Okay, Shirkuh, subhanAllah, man, he's working those steps. He's getting his steps in, man. He's going back from Damascus to Cairo like 3 times. This is the 3rd time going now. Okay, subhanAllah, right? This is a picture of Masjid Azhar. This little thing that I remember I said that the Fatimids are the one that built Masjid Azhar. Salahuddin will make it into a Sunni masjid. We'll talk about that in a bit. And just a little note that this is known as their minaret, the one that has a 2 I don't know what you call those things, the 2 things at the top, and it's still there today. They didn't break it down. That was a symbol of the Shia minarets. They would have 2 of these little, I don't know, pointers at the top, towers at the top. This is more of the Sunni ones, if you will. Okay, spent a lot of days here studying with teachers and so forth right there. So, but so that's what they built there. That's Masjid Azhar. So the 3rd campaign, the Fatimid state was getting weak in Cairo. Everyone knew that they were just falling apart because they have to rely on the Crusaders. Al-Murik decides to invade Cairo for a 4th time. He already has his people guarding the gates. He saw, let me just take it over, which he wants to extend Jerusalem in as a bigger state. Okay, because they lost Edessa already, so he wants to go a little bit more. He doesn't want to go towards Nuruddin Zanki's directions. Go back over here, right? He doesn't want to go up here because Nuruddin is pretty strong, but he knows this is more of an easier way to take the Fatimids, right? And so he wants to come over here, and so that's why he invades for a 4th time. Shawar orders that Fustat, the old city of Cairo, to be burnt down once again. So Al-Murik doesn't have no wealth he could plunder from that city. A portion was paid immediately, or Shawar offers 1 million. That's what it says in the book. I thought it was kind of extravagant, but maybe it was true. 1 million dinar. I didn't know they used millions back in those days. I thought that was something we do. We're in billions now, I guess. I don't know. People's basketball contracts are way up there now. So 1 million dinar, I guess that was a thing, to keep Al-Murik to stay home. Okay, just buy them off as much as they can. Okay, which happens in today's world too. Okay. Al-Murik backs down, so I'll take the money. Hey, everyone likes money, right? People change very easy with money. The Fatimid Khalifa sends a note to Nuruddin and says, Shawar, this guy's off the wall. Can you come and take him out? So now the Khalifa, the Fatimid Khalifa, who is Shia, doesn't like his wazir, right? For all good, everyone knows Shawar is kind of a little different, right? There's 2 different sides of the story. Some say that Shirkuh came because he knew that Al-Murik was coming. In the book, it mentions that Dr. Salabi's book that the Khalifa asked for Nuruddin to send Shirkuh again. So Allahu Alam, exactly what it was. The Khalifa says, I'll give you 1/3 of the land, which that's crazy. I don't know if Nuruddin really believed that. I'll give you 1/3 of the land of Egypt, and Shirkuh could stay in Egypt and settle there if you come and take out Shawar and protect me against the Crusaders. Okay, so everyone's trying to buy and keep their position as much as they can, right? As much as they want. Okay. Nuruddin sends Shirkuh once again to Egypt. So this is his 3rd route, right? To Egypt. He knows the city pretty well. He knows how to get there. He knows the side streets, everything. He goes with an army of 8,000 horsemen. Okay, so they can move a little bit faster because they're on horses. Like I mentioned right here. Amrik decides to retreat as Shirkuh is approaching, and the locals uprising is taking place. All the narration says that he actually fought the Crusaders in Cairo. So I'm not too sure exactly what the true story is. Well, the Amr came and the Shalwar said, "I'll give you 1 million dinar," and he said, "All right, I'm going home," or that he came and then Shirkuh met him in Cairo. So there's different stories there. Okay. After that, Amrik never goes back to Cairo again. Okay, this was his 5th attempt in 6 years to try to take Egypt. Okay, like this is how much the Crusaders wanted that land there. The Fatimid Khalifa Al-Adid, it's a hard name to pronounce, welcomes Shirkuh when he comes. He said, "Thank you for coming, defeating the Crusaders. This is great." Shawar is there and he's shaking his knees. Okay. There's another story that mentioned that Shawar invited Shirkuh to come to defend the Crusaders. Whatever the story is, Shirkuh knows that he's in. Shawar knows that he's in some trouble now, because Shirkuh's there. The Khalifa's welcoming him, and he know what he did to him multiple times. Remember, he was supposed to give him money, and he turned his back on him. So Shawar is, knows he's gonna get in some trouble here.
Why didn't you cover that part? Crusaders do not attempt to capture Cairo ever again. Reason.
Why? It's because Amalric he did 5 times. So he's just like, you know what? I'm not good at this anymore. Maybe I need to change my major or something like that, right? So he's gonna attempt to take another city. So this is Cairo. He just says, "I'm gonna take another city." We'll talk about that in a bit. But at least they don't attempt to take Cairo anymore. Yeah. Number one, why? Because Shirkuh's there now. Shirkuh's a little scared of him. I would be a little scared of him too if I would have saw him too. One eye. This guy's like taking down people left and right. Okay. So what happens here is that the Fatimid Khalifa, here we go. Shirkuh lures Shalwar to the side. Says, "Come over here. I want to show you something. Get away from the people." That's bad news. If anyone ever tells you to go to the dark alley, don't go to the dark alley. Or have a friend there with you. Okay. And I don't know why this guy would have believed it. He said, "Oh, what's going on over here? What am I looking at? What do you want to show me?" It's mentioned that Salahuddin was there and just kills him. Right. Well deserved. I think any of you guys don't feel any remorse at all. Right. I don't think everyone's sad. No one's dropping tears here at all. And kills him from all the treachery that he has done, all the lies he has done, people he has killed, right, over and over again. Now, Shawar is gone finally. So there's no wazir of Egypt anymore. So the Khalifa, right, he needs to appoint someone as the wazir. What does he do, right? He thinks that, I need to appoint a Zangid as my Khalifa, right? Which is crazy. They're Sunnis, and that's a whole nother dynasty. You're the Fatimids, they're the Zangids. Why would you appoint a Zangid as your Khalifa, or as your wazir? He's trying to make sure if he does that, Nur al-Din will say, "Oh, that's a nice gesture. I won't come and take your land anymore." See, Nur al-Din, look, we appointed someone from your army as my wazir. So don't come and try to kill me. Stay over there if you will. Okay. And so he appoints Shirkuh as his wazir. Okay, which is a big, big thing. By doing that, the Fatimid Khalifa is pretty much saying that I give up. My caliphate, the Fatimid Empire is pretty much crashing down. Right? You're appointing someone from another dynasty as your wazir, you pretty much know that your time's over by just doing that. Okay. So, but he said, "You know what? I'm going to do it. So Nur al-Din doesn't come and attack me. I keep my seat. He's happy. Everyone's smiling. Shawar is dead. Everyone wants him dead anyhow. So that's good too, right? So that happens there. But that extends the Zangid rule pretty much from Syria to Egypt now and Iraq, which is massive. Now, this is the Zangid dynasty, the Zangid Empire now, right? So let me have a map. Do I have a map of that? Yeah, there you go. Right. So now all the orange is pretty much the Zangid territory now, right? And this is all the Crusader territory. You can see it's bad news for them. They're just have this. I would like to say it's bad news for them, but we know how small Israel right now is and where the Muslims are at, and it's been there for, almost 80 years, right? That's, so subhanAllah. But same thing here. Look how small this Crusader strip is here, right? And this is now the Zangid Empire. Okay. So this is this is Imad-ud-Din, the father of Nur-ad-Din. So Imad-ud-Din, he took over Edessa and Aleppo, and then he died. Then his son Nur-ad-Din he conquered the light orange part, but it's all the same family, the Zangid family, if you will. Yeah, the orange on the yellow. Yeah.
That's why you got the time.
Yeah, I think they have the time there. And also and this is Mosul in Egypt, in Iraq. So they had this is the main cities: Mosul, Edessa, Aleppo, Damascus, and now Cairo. And the Fatimids are falling apart. They owned all this, so they probably, and down in Mecca and Medina, which is no one really, alhamdulillah, never really brought a big army down there. So you pretty much own that also. You own that land too. So conduct the affairs there. So this is a very small strip here, the county of Jerusalem, Tripoli, and Antioch. That's all they have right now. Okay, that's what the Crusaders have right now. So that is, yes. Yeah. Okay. What happens now, the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, plans things, is that Shirkuh is only the wazir for 2 months, and he dies of natural causes. He's a great warrior. I kind of want to die in the battlefield, but that was his qadr, right? He just died naturally, and only 2 months. You thought that things were going to shake up big with Shirkuh being the wazir. So now he dies, right? The beloved uncle of Salahuddin, okay, who was a military genius, brave. Imagine if you're Salahuddin, you have an uncle like that. Imagine if you had an uncle like that. Like, you would not fear anybody. Like, I saw my uncle take down 10 people with one eye. You know what I mean? I think you would feel like I could take on the Crusaders with one finger, right? So imagine Salahuddin growing up like that. I'm not saying like he's like just I'm all about war. He really, though, was on more on the opposite end. Remember, I told you he didn't really want to join the army. He kind of wanted to study, and his uncle brought him in. Okay, and so his nickname was Asad ad-Din, the lion of the religion. Al-Aid, the Khalifa, is thinking, hey, we need to keep someone from the Zankin Empire or dynasty as the wazir, but let's pick the weakest guy, the one who's the youngest, the one that we're able to control, so I could keep my seat, and he's not going to try to overthrow me. So who do they pick? Yusuf ibn Ayyub, better known as Salahuddin. He's still young, you know what I mean? Like, he's like his mannerism is different, he's really religious. They saw that. He wasn't like the other people that wanted to just kill people left and right. And so they pick Salahuddin as their wazir, which is amazing. This is his big opportunity now that he is the wazir of Egypt. Okay. So he becomes a wazir at age 31, which is not like 16 years old. It's you're still kind of well mature at that time, right? But to be pretty much, even though there's a Khalifa, the wazir is pretty much the ruler of Egypt. So now at 31, he's ruling a land that you saw how big that land was of Egypt, right? Which was over here. Like, he's ruling all this area here, which is massive. If you look at it, it's much bigger than what Nur-ad-Din has. Okay, and Nur-ad-Din is the one he's under Nur-ad-Din. So you can see a little bit of Nur-ad-Din's like, hey, this guy's, I love Salahuddin, right? But he is actually ruling a land much bigger than mine and much wealthier than mine. So just think about that. Right now they're good, on good terms, alhamdulillah. They like each other. They're not worrying about they're going to come and attack me or I'm going to try to attack him. But you could think about that's going to be in the mindset that, Salahuddin's getting up to power. This might be an issue, one day or another. Where we're at here. Yeah. Mechanized, even though he was in the army, though, but the way from his demeanor and mannerism looked like, he would listen. Salahuddin was a different individual. Like, when he became wazir there, he didn't live in the palace. Like, you're the wazir. This is the palace of Egypt. You come and you live here. Okay. It's an honor. Like, this is your people. When we want people to respect you. He's like, no, I don't want to. I want to live in my tent outside the city. What are you doing? Right. And the palace is kind of weird. I always think palaces are like, they had like a zoo inside there. They had lions and deer and all type of, gold bowls and stuff. Yeah, exactly. He wasn't really about that life. So he said, I just want to sleep in my tent. And there's stories where, like, This Mamluks. Mamluks are like slaves that were servants or slave people that were taken in battles and became soldiers. Okay. And so a lot of them became Muslim, but they end up still being a soldier, even though they became Muslim. So there's a story where one of his Mamluk soldiers comes up to Salahuddin. He's lying on the ground like he's sleeping, he's tired, and says, I need you to sign this. And then he's like, I'll do it later. Thank you so much, right? He's all, no, you need to sign this now. So he's like, what is that? Like, I don't have a pen. I don't have ink. I don't have my inkwell. They have this thing you have to dip in ink. So I don't have that right now. He's all, it's right behind you. I see it. So he's talking to the Wazir of Egypt that I see your inkwell right there. Can you sign to me? You would think that he would go get it. Salahuddin gets up, he gets his inkwell, he signs it, and the guy goes. And the guy just goes off, right? And he doesn't do anything. He doesn't say like how rude you are, chop his head off, how dare you talk to me. He didn't do that. There's another story when they were fighting the Crusaders, and people are captured. This is the way how warfare works. We could talk about slaves and servants and women being captured and stuff. This is how kind of war worked. And so they fought a battle, and women and children were taken. And in Islam, women, if you have a daughter, you don't separate them from the mother. It's part of the ruling of the Sharia. And so the daughter was young, and she was taken away from the mother. Okay. This woman goes to the Crusaders and say, my daughter was taken away from me in the battle yesterday. Like, go do something. Go like fight for her. They told her, go and walk over there and go talk to Salahuddin. Like, what the heck? I'm a woman. How am I going to do that? She walked over by the soldiers. The soldiers not going to fight her because they know they have no weapons. So like, where are you going? She goes to Salahuddin and says, yesterday, my daughter was taken in the battle, and she's young, she's small, and I want her back. And she's crying. Salahuddin's like, he knows that's wrong. He tells his servant, go to the slave market and find her daughter. They go back, they find her daughter. Gives it to the woman. The woman's bawling and crying. Salahuddin starts crying. So if he starts crying, everyone started crying. Just because that's the king, might as well, right? That's who he was, right? That's why he was so different. That's why the non-Muslims talk about him so much, right? So they call him Saladin, right? It's like Saladin, this guy was different. And you saw, that's why I went at this class. We started it back, about the Crusaders. Everything was about, oh, my brother, let me kill him, and I'll kill this person. And everyone's just like crazy. Like, how do you live life like that? And then you have this guy that's like not in his time, a little bit different. That's why he stood out so much.
So separately about Salahuddin Al-Ayyubi.
Yeah, we were. Exactly. We'll go into some stories about him. I mean, that's a lot of the class is going to be pulling now that he's entering the main stage now. The Ayyubi dynasty is now starting, right? He's still part of the Zankids, and the Zankid Empire, but he's going to start his own empire pretty soon. And then we'll get to a lot of good stories about him and so forth. But just kind of to answer your question, this is kind of like why he was different, man. So that's why when they saw him, they're like, oh, he's like a good guy. He's like Assalamu alaikum, alhamdulillah, astaghfirullah, mashallah type guy. Those guys we could control. Yeah. He's reads Quran, he's praying. Those guys we want to keep.
So different in that.
Yes, yeah. But at the same time, he knew about justice. You know what I mean? But then you have to do it in an Islamic way, right? So that's the problem. People like to kill women and children all the time, and that's unfortunate. Obviously, we all know very well that's what's going on today. Yeah, so at 31, he becomes the wazir. The people in Cairo love him because he's actually spending money on him. Remember, he's not wearing gold and silver. So he's actually spending on the people, right? Caring for them. His army respects him because he's actually honorable, right? His brother arrived with military support from Nuruddin, sends him over there. So now he gets his family there a bit, if you will. Eternal affairs. Now, obviously, you know what? Those guys that say Assalamu alaikum, alhamdulillah, mashallah, Allahu Akbar, those guys that pray in the masjid, people like to pray on them. And also people just don't like if you're in a high position. Because always know if you're in a high position, it's kind of like a life lesson here. You guys probably know this more than I do. A lot of you guys might be much older than me. That if you ever get raised to a high position and you're celebrating, alhamdulillah, I finally made it, know there's about 10 people that also wanted that same position. that are clapping for you, at the same time, they're like, hope you die, right? And I hope you fall, and I hope you get fired, and you know it, and we will make sure we'll try not to work with you, so you look bad, so then the boss will say, hey, why don't you become the visor or the manager or the director this time, right? And that's just that is just people, and that's people's hearts, unfortunately. There's good people out there though. There's some people that would want to clap for you, and hopefully you try to stick with those people. So obviously he is now the wazir. There is people you could expect in the government that says, that was my spot, I wanted to do that. Who is this guy? He's not even part of the Fatimid Empire, right? And so the Khalifa is confident, which I don't even know what that really means, but anyhow, someone that he has confidence in, I guess, right? That's kind of his right-hand man, right? Tawashi, who is a Nubian servant from Sudan area, okay, doesn't like Salahuddin at all, okay? And so he's working with his troops and trying to plot with Amalric. Everyone use Amalric for anything, man. If you need to cause trouble, call Amalric to come. He'll take money. He'll do anything for you. He'll kill for you, right? So, and try to come over and take out Salahuddin. Salahuddin finds out about the plot. Remember, he's not stupid. He's saying Assalamu alaikum to you, shaking your hand, but he's also checking to see, who are you? It's always good to be honest with people, you know what I mean? Right? And he finds out that they are planning to overthrow him in the palace when he comes and kill him. Okay. So he knew that was it. They found a letter that one of the servants had, like in their shoe, that there was with their plot. That's treason. So guess what? You're killed. You're killed just that's justable in all countries. Treason is, is a death wish. So I mean, if you do that, then make sure that you get away with it, or else, if the government finds you, then bad news. So he's killed. Salahuddin doesn't like anyone in the palace because they feel like everyone kind of smiling with him, but he doesn't know who's going to poison his next cup of water or food, right? So he fires everyone out of that palace, puts in Karakush. Say that 5 times fast if you can. Karakush is his family members, and says, you run the palace because that's the only thing I could trust right now. Find out who these people are and let me know if it's safe to walk in these places or not, right? And so he's fortifying himself with people he trusts. There's a student army of 50,000 soldiers that fought Salahuddin inside the city, okay? And that's a lot of soldiers to go against you, okay? The Khalifa is watching this happen, right? Salahuddin loses a lot of soldiers, but at the end, he's able to win, right? He's not trying to fight the Crusaders. He has to worry about people in his own backyard. They think about Holland, Palestine is occupied, but you have to worry about this nonsense. All right. Palestine is occupied, but Syria, we have people that are trying to kill, or Muslim by name, but trying to kill us at the same time. So we have to clean up that, right? So almost the same exact thing here. He banishes all the soldiers to Giza, which is kind of far away where the pyramids are. And they ask for pardon. Guess what? He gives it to. And I don't know, if you have a 50,000 person soldier and you're trying to kill me at the end, and they say, oh, no, we're so sorry, please don't kill us. You would say like, I don't know, if I let you go, maybe tomorrow you're going to come back and probably kill me again. But he says, okay, go. And this is Salahuddin. You're going to see this numerous times. Like the worst generals, the worst crusaders, generals, he said, okay, you can come out of prison, let's go. Just don't fight me again. Guess what happens? Next day, they get an army and they come and fight Salahuddin. He was like, sometimes he was a little too nice. We see this with the Prophet ﷺ too. He's a prophet, so we can never say anything because Allah's guiding him. We see with the Jews in Medina, they're trying to kill him. They're like, please don't kill me, please don't kill me. We'll leave the city. Oh, can we take our stuff with us? Oh, okay, go ahead, take your stuff with you. Guess what? They take the stuff and they build another city in Khaybar. And then guess what? They go and try to attack the Muslims on that way. Subhanallah, right? But this is Salahuddin. Okay, so he banishes Then there's his first major event in the war takes place, and that is it's in the city of Dumyat or Damita. I never call it Damita because Arabs call it Dumyat. This is the Nile River here, and this is Cairo. It's called a delta because it splits in two. Okay. So one goes all the way over to Dumyat, the other one goes to Rosetta, the Rosetta Stone. Yeah. Okay. Well, this is Alexandria also. Okay, over here. So the Crusaders said, Amalek says, you know what? I can't get into Cairo. I tried too many times. I'm getting old. Let me go to this city, a port city over here. Might be easier for me to start there, if you will. And what Amalek does, something different, he goes to the Byzantines or the Roman Empire, which are the Eastern, Orthodox Christians. And Amalek is a crusader. He's Catholic, right? They don't see eye to eye too much. And he says, you know what? Hey, let's try to take down Salahuddin. If that's important, because it'll be good for you and be good for us. It'll be good for Christianity in general. So they put 50,000 soldiers together to go and try to take this city. What they're trying to do is that pull Salahuddin out of Cairo to go fight in this area over here. And when Salahuddin goes, guess what? Hopefully somebody would end up taking Cairo while he's gone, right? So there's two narrations. Some narrations say that he went, and one that's mentioned in the book is that he's like, I'm not dumb. And I'm going to send one of my generals and armies to go fight you guys. I'm staying right here because I just started my term and I'm not trying to end my term anytime soon, right? Because people are always trying to kill you, like I mentioned, right? And so he sends his uncle, Mahmud, right? Sometimes you only can trust your family. Sometimes you can't trust your family, right? But that's what he's going with right here. And you can see anytime he's trusting his family, Karakush is the one in the palace. His uncle Mahmud is going to, and his nephew Omar is going to fight in Dumyat. You can see the Ayyubs are spreading, right? Even though it's a Zankian empire, but his family's spreading, and this is how the Ayyub family will kind of spread around, if you will. So Nur-ad-Din also sends troops in the region, in Jerusalem area, to cause a distraction. The Muslims put a big chain across the river here. And so the Crusaders can't get through there because they pull the chain and the boats hit it, right? It must be a very massive chain. Many people did this in the rivers and so forth to stop, boats going through. And so they were able to stop them. The Crusaders couldn't get through. It started raining on them. They're losing people. They're losing supplies. The Muslim army is very strong. And a storm comes after 50 days of leaving a siege. So that's more like almost like 2 months of being there. They say, we're going to go home. We're gonna lift it, right? We just can't get through the city. Alhamdulillah, Allah protects them. Allah, empowers them, and they're able to defend the city. And Salahuddin becomes a proven leader because this is his first major campaign. Even though some say that he wasn't there, some say he was, that he was able to defend Cairo. And the people saw that, and they're like, hey, he didn't have to call the Crusaders to come and help him. He did it himself, right? Which is a big note there. So this was one of the main things that Salahuddin did there, was able to prevent his city from taking over. So he gets a lot of credit from the people there as being a true leader. Najm ad-Din. Najm ad-Din is the father of Salahuddin. Okay. Anytime you hear the word Din, they're all nicknames. That's not their name. The real name is Ayyub, right? So Salahuddin's real name is Yusuf ibn Ayyub. Okay, Yusuf is his real name. Ayyub is his dad's name. Okay, but all the names are like Najm ad-Din means star, the star of the religion, right? Or you could say like light, the star, if you will. Remember, I told you guys to pick names. You haven't done yet, but anyhow. Okay. So in 1170, Salahuddin's father is sent from Damascus to Cairo. Nur-ad-Din says, "Go see your son in Cairo, in Egypt," right? And so, which is very similar to, I put this here, and Dr. Salabi mentioned in this book, it's like Yaqub alayhi salam visiting Yusuf alayhi salam in Egypt. And now he's in power, and his dad comes, and same thing. He honors his dad when he comes, right? Let him sit down in his place where he was, as being the Wazir of Egypt. It brought orders from Nur-ad-Din, it says, and the Fatimid Empire. All this Fatimid Shia type relics around the town, and the Fatimid Khalifa, we got to end them because they're going to stick you in the back pretty soon. Okay, you got to clean your own backyard sometime. I know, right? If you're going to try to move forward to fight the Crusaders, you got to make sure someone's not going to stab you in the back who you thought you were your friend. So you got to just focus one way. So this is the orders from Nur-ad-Din. Okay, and so his father, on 1173, it's only about 3 years after he dies in Egypt. Salahuddin wasn't even there. There's a little note here that go back to this. Let me see if I go back to this map here. So Salahuddin's here, right? Nur ad-Din is over here. Since Salahuddin took the wazir position in Cairo, Nur ad-Din and Salahuddin never met. They never like, let's meet up together, congratulate each other, let's go over our plan. Okay. Salahuddin was always kind of hesitant to meet with Nur ad-Din because he's a nice guy. So he felt like if Nur ad-Din tells me anything, I'm just going to melt and I'm not going to be able to handle it. I'm just going to follow what he says. Okay. Which is not bad, but he's, both of them are kind of thinking that, hey, one might be after me, and Nur ad-Din thinking that Salahuddin might be after him, even though they're on good terms. So every time Salahuddin, like when we go back to his dad passing away, he was taking over a Crusader fort in Jordan over here. So he left Cairo, won an army, was fighting over a Crusader fort there, maybe because he thought they were going to attack him. Nur ad-Din sends an army to go help him. Salahuddin, when he hears that Nur ad-Din is coming, he says, guys, pack up, let's go back to Cairo. Nur ad-Din gets there and says, what are you doing? We would have took over the fort. Like, you don't want to meet me? Like, what's going on? So he gets a little hesitant about Salahuddin. Salahuddin said, no, it's not that I don't want to meet you. I got news my dad was dying in Cairo, so I had to go back. Okay. The thing with that is that we don't have cell phones. You don't have WhatsApp. So how are you going to know that your dad was dying? Okay. It could have been that he didn't want to meet Nur ad-Din and he found about that news, and that was just a great excuse. And his dad was dying. Back in those days, they used homing pigeons. You know what homing pigeons are? So they got pigeons from Cairo, 10 of them or so. And then if you want to send a letter or news back to the army, then you put a note on the leg of the pigeon, let it go, and it'll fly back to Cairo. Like, it'll know how to get there. It's much faster than the guy on a horse that's kind of going on and trying to get to that other town with the news. The Crusaders didn't have that, right? So they had wireless technology at that time, mashallah, right? So they had that, right? So they had these homing pigeons. So maybe someone sent a pigeon, this note, and Salahuddin said, oh my gosh, my dad's dying. Let me go back. Maybe it's the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So he didn't meet with Nur ad-Din. Nur ad-Din got a little hesitant back. So what he did, even though we're talking about Najm-Din here, that he sends a letter to Nur ad-Din and says, sign this thing that you submit to me, that I am your superior. I am your leader and you are below me. Sign this thing. Ayyub, his father, told him in front of everyone, saying, son, sign this right now. If Nur ad-Din will tell me to kill you, I will kill you. So he's like, what the heck, my dad just said. He's like, okay. And then he meets with his dad after, dad, he's like, don't worry, I'm not going to kill you. But I know you don't want to, sign it to be under him because we're kind of hesitant what he's doing, but don't advertise that to the people, right? It's not good politics right now. Okay. So he said, just sign it. We don't think that he'll ever attack us, and we have no intention of attacking him either. Salahuddin doesn't really care about Nur ad-Din. He has no beef with them at all. Right? No, there's no issues. But just sign the paper, right? If you think about signing the paper, you're gonna get your hand cuffed and you're gonna get in some trouble, right? So he was a little hesitant of what Nur ad-Din might be doing. Okay, but his dad said, "Go ahead and do it," and he had you have to listen to your dad, right? Right. So he does it, right? His dad does pass away. He leaves 6 sons, two daughters. So Salahuddin has other brothers that he could kind of rely on. You mentioned, if you will, and he passed away in Egypt, at that time there. Okay, so Salahuddin has we'll talk about his children, his wife, and stuff later on. We'll get to his personal life. So one of the things was that we need to stop the Shiaism and the Fatimid Caliphate in Cairo. So how are we going to do that? Slowly but surely. So Salahuddin, what he does, he starts dismissing all the qadis, all the Shia qadis in the palace, in the court, and starts putting Sunni ones, if you will. He doesn't say that, but says, you guys, take your tenure. You guys could retire now. You guys have been serving for so long. Put these other guys in, okay? And so they kind of feel good, and at the same time, you clean them out. Remove any type of Shia symbolism in there. So one thing is that the Shia do this. I've not been to a Shia masjid, I don't think ever. But so they add wording to their adhan. So they say Hayya khairul amal, right? Come to good and deeds or come to good deeds, if you will. And they also say, oh, Muhammad al khairul bashar, that Prophet ﷺ is the best of mankind, right? So they add that to the adhan. Okay, I think they add some other words. I mean, yeah. And so he said, you know what? We're all the adhan here in Egypt, we're just not gonna add that anymore. Obviously, if someone hears that, you know that something's going down. But he wants to clear that out, right? So he stops that from being in the official adhan in the masajid. Okay. So back in Lynn, those adhans and the people who run the masjid are regulated who they are, right? You can't no one just says, hey, brother, can you go give the adhan? The people are stipulated to do these, especially the big masajid. Okay. He orders that in the khutbah, you have to say, may Allah put blessings on Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, and Ali, the Khulafa al-Rashidin. You guys ever wonder, like, actually Sheikh Abdul Misra just gave a khutbah on Friday. I don't know if you guys, he did that at the beginning of his khutbah. A lot of people do that. If you're wondering, like, why do they do that for? Like, we all kind of know that. It's kind of good to do that. Did the Prophet ever do that? Of course he didn't do that because they weren't Khalifas yet, right? He was still alive. But that's mainly to establish that guy's Sunni. All right, it's a kind of stamp. Like, did you hear what he said? He like give praise on Abu Bakr. Shia will never do that. On Omar, Shia will never do that. Uthman, oh heck no, right? On Ali, yeah, of course. So that's kind of saying like, I'm wearing my little Sunni stripe on my shoulder while I'm giving my khutbah. So he's the one that starts this in Cairo. So in the khutbah, whoever the one's there, make sure you put salams on these things. People are like saying that was never done before. That's blasphemy for most Shia. They put salams on Abu Bakr for a lot of reasons. I don't want to get too much into that. But anyhow, okay. He starts studying Sunni schools that are teaching the madhahib, like Hanafi, Shafi. He was a Shafi himself. Follow that madhab, if you will. Cancel a lot of the privileges of the Fatimid Khalifa. So, you're getting old, don't do this, I'll take over that. So slowly kind of putting him to only do, just sign here and there, and that's it. You don't do too much, if you will, to take away his privileges, right? In 1171, and this is the main thing, he orders that all those who are giving the khutbah, there's no more salams and praise on the Khalifa of the Fatimids. Okay. If you ever go to, or Saudi Arabia, if you ever attend khutbah in Mecca or Medina, especially in the UAE, in Abu Dhabi or Dubai, every part of the khutbah, they're going to have some type of praise for the Amir or the Khalifa or of the country. It's always there. So these countries? That's a good question. I would not know that, but you would always say that. And it's kind of like, and especially most people, like when you go to Umrah and Hajj, you're like, I don't want to. No, but they always add that in there. Go ahead,
I think it's not really in the khutbah. I mean, I know in Malaysia do the same. It's not in Malaysia. It's not in the khutbah, but it's in the
dua.
In the dua.
Yeah, which part of the
It's in the dua. In the second khutbah, the second khutbah, they do the dua. They also say our king and our sultan and depending which state you are.
Yeah. Which is good. If they're a good person,
it's not.
Alhamdulillah.
It's like not in the level as in the beginning where you praise Prophet Muhammad. Right?
Yeah.
It's like
it's usually at that.
Our king.
Exactly.
And I think there's nothing wrong.
No. It's good, especially if they're a good person. It's good to make dua for people. No problem, right? But it's also a stamp that he is the Khalifa of this land. You kind of know that, right? So they'll do that. But anyhow, so then he issued that the Khalifa's name or the dua for him is removed from the khutbah. But add the Abbasid Khalifa's name. And you're like, where are the Abbasids? Where are they? Are they even around anymore? Well, this thing, if I go back here, they're in Baghdad, is where the Abbasid Khalifa. He's just like a name. He really has no power at all. The Seljuks are now the Zankids are the ones who really rule this area. But he's just kind of like remember kind of mentioned in last week, like, the prime minister of the country, like he really doesn't do anything. It's more the president. His name's kind of there. Or the king of England, like all these guys that are, Queen Elizabeth and these people, they don't have anything. It's just that they're the queen and king of the country, the royalty, if you will. So he only has no more power, but so they said, you know what? The Seljuks are looking up to the Abbasids. They're like, you know what? We understand that you're the Khalifa and we're not, if you will. Okay. So he adds to Azam, add the Khalifa of the Abbasids name in the khutbah. And when people heard that, I pretty much said that this land is not run on the Fatimids anymore. It's over pretty much for them. Okay. There it is, it's gone from there. And so what happened is that what's interesting, Salahuddin does that. That same week or like 5 days later, Al-Aid, the Khalifa of the Fatimids, dies anyhow. Right? So someone came up, it's funny, someone came up to Salahuddin and said, Salahuddin, like Al-Aid is dead. And he's like, if you would have waited a couple more days and he would have died anyways, it wouldn't look like you were kind of doing anything. You know what I mean? That would have been good. And someone laughed and said, you know what? I think he died because of what you did, right? And because you took it there, that's the reason why he died, actually. So don't worry, right? So that was actually good what you did. It caused him to die, right? So that's so everything you see for the Salahuddin, the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Shirku dies naturally. He has no problem with Shirku. That's his uncle. He loves him. But since he dies, guess what? He gets pushed up I'm the Wazir of Egypt now. I'm like, what the heck, right? And then the Khalifa dies. And all of a sudden, everyone, now he's what? Now he pretty much runs everything. Now this is the start of the Ayyubid dynasty now. So even though he's under the Zankids, right, this is what's going to start. And that ended 280-year ruling of the Fatimids in Cairo. Right? They established the city of Cairo. They're the ones that call it the word Qahira, which means like the conqueror. One of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Al-Qahhar, the one who's like forces or could empower over you, which Allah will overpower people, right? That's why we make dua. We ask Allah to give victory to our brothers in Palestine. Ya Qahhar, the one that could force it. People don't want to sign ceasefires. Allah, you could do it. You could overcome anything, kind of thing, if you will. So it's a name that you could use when you make dua. So anyhow, so the Fatimids are gone now. Salahuddin is sitting with pretty much no challenge from a different. People might not like him in the in the ruling class, but anyhow. So now that's pretty much done. The Fatimids are done, right? We're going to see what's going to happen with Salahuddin and Nuruddin now. So that's going to be the next step. Okay, I'll give you a hint just for suspense. So you guys like suspense, right? So what happened is the next year, Nuruddin dies. Qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala once again. So guess what? Who's going to take over Damascus and Aleppo? He's just sitting there, right? Nuruddin was ruling it for a while. Everyone kind of points over to Salahuddin, but he's way in Egypt now, right? But you're the next best up. Nuruddin appoints. You think you pointed Salahuddin to take over those cities? Remember, he kind of didn't kind of a little different. He's not a Zangid, right? He's Ayyubi, right? He's a different family. They're Kurdish. Zangids are different. So he points his son to take over Aleppo and Damascus. Okay. But his son's just not the best political guy out there. So we're going to see what's going to happen there and how that all plans out. And remember, Al-Murik is sitting in Jerusalem. There's one more note here, Dr. Singh. Let me know. Last thing, Al-Murik dies. So alhamdulillah rabbil alameen, right? So that's good. So we're going to see inshallah what's going to happen next week. May Allah bless all of you guys. And inshallah ta'ala, we'll have class next week. Stay for Dr. Siddiqi's class. Inshallah ta'ala, you'll learn a lot more than from me. Inshallah ta'ala. Assalamu alaikum.